MOD-PAC is a single facility in Buffalo, New York, operating on 500,000 square feet of space. We have 300 plus employees that work 5 days a week, 24 hours a day. Behind me is our raw material warehouse, where you can see all the different grades and calipers that we stock. Obviously, there's a lot of it, and these rolls can weigh upwards of 4 tons. They get moved around with the aid of a clamped fork truck, which you're going to see a little later on our tour here. So this is our receiving dock. Basically, these bay doors, tractor trailers back into, and all the rolls get unloaded with these clamped fork trucks. This area behind me is actually our baling and recycling. MOD-PAC recycles about 7,000 tons of paperboard waste and scrap annually, and that board actually gets made back into paperboard in the form of clay-coated newsback, recycled material. The recycling trucks, basically, we have one queued up here at all times, so you could actually see maybe there are bales of paper waste on this truck now. When it gets filled up, they'll come and take this and put an empty one in its place, and it just keeps going like that all day. So this is our brand new sheeter number 7, we call it. What happens is the rolls that you saw in raw materials get picked up by that clamp truck, brought over here, loaded onto this roll stand, and then fed into the machine, almost like adding machine tape. But what happens is they'll actually put it through a series of winders that are called decurl. So that roll that's wound up is so tight that if it came off, it would basically just be a curled sheet. So as you kind of look through here, you can see that it wraps through the machine to unwind the paper. Then in this section, what will happen is it will get slit or cut to size, and then basically chopped off like a guillotine cutter. The machine will actually output over 30,000 sheets an hour. It also has continuous roll feed, so that basically they can put another roll up while the last one is running out, and then it's a continuous process, so it never stops. A couple of our pieces of equipment here at MOD-PAC are so large that it actually takes gantries and ladders to be able to access certain parts of the machine. So this sheet you'll see out on the floor that's perfectly measured to the die size of the folding cartons. So basically the art plates or the printing plates, the die and everything will match this sheet size perfectly. This is an Aerator Jogger. After these loads come off the sheeter, they're not always perfect to be able to be fed into a press. So what these guys are going to do is they're basically going to put this load onto a machine, and a blast of air is going to go through it and basically settle all the sheets down. Another area that we actually get into a little bit is what's called polylaminate foil printing. So the sheets come in with a basically foil adhered to the sheet. Some examples are on our website of the different customers that we do this for, mostly confectionery and medical or personal care like toothpaste or bar soap. We're going to take a look at our printing department. So this is press number 12, kind of our latest and greatest with a lot of new technology and color management software. So what Dave is doing right now is he's running this press. He's using a color management software that actually measures the ink densities on the sheet to make sure that it's all in spec to the customer requirements. So each time a sheet goes through a press, Dave has the ability to monitor it and make adjustments to the color as it's going to maintain consistency. All of our presses at MOD-PAC are 7 color unit presses. They're all Heidelberg. So basically, you can see the 7 units here. Each one of these units lays down a different or unique color for that print process. We're here in our graphic arts department. This is Dan, who's actually processing a piece of customer supplied artwork. Essentially what he's going to do is he's just going to prep it for our print needs. So he'll apply the MOD-PAC die line and then step or lay it out into a design that will ultimately get printing plates in Dowd's area. So this is MOD-PAC's plate making room. We actually do have the ability to make our own printing plates in-house. It gives us a tremendous advantage to be able to do this in-house. In the middle of the night, if something were to happen to a specific plate, we have the ability of actually coming in here, remaking the plate, going right back to press to keep the presses running. The digital files that were transferred from our graphics department supplied by our customers basically come over to this room. They get processed and then put into a plate output file, and that's what actually produces the printing plate. So this is MOD-PAC's in-house ink making department. So basically we also manufacture all of our own inks in-house with a company, PerTech, that we've partnered with. Steve here actually helps us to develop and manufacture all of the inks. So basically, if we have a custom color, Steve can actually take digital measurements, plunk that into a computer, and it actually creates almost like a recipe for ink of different colors and bases that actually produce that color. Similar to our plate making capability, if something happens mid-run or mid-press, we literally have the ability of pulling ink off the shelves and mixing it to keep production running. This is our die cutting department. This is my co-worker Isaiah. He and I have worked together for over 20 years. So we're going to kind of walk through a couple of the features for quality control and a couple of different things for the die cutting department. At the beginning of this machine, there are registration features that are built into it, what we call power registration. So as this sheet comes down the line, basically it's going to jog it up to what's called a side guide and then into the first cutting section of the machine. This is the actual cutting section where a cutting die comes down on top of it, creases and cuts the carton in line. Then as it moves into the next section, in line, the machine will measure the optical registration from print to cut. So there are print registration marks incorporated onto the sheet. This machine will measure optically how close those cuts are to those crosshairs. So then in this section, this is a waste or stripping section. The waste is actually ejected out of the sheet onto a conveyor that's output on the other side of the machine into a gaylord or baling bin to be recycled with the other material. One other feature of this machine is it's actually what's called a blanking machine. So after the cut section, the waste section gets stripped out, you basically have a finished cut carton at the end of the line that comes out on a pallet. This is the waste section and the finished goods section that I had indicated on the other side of the machine. The waste gets ejected, and then what comes out is a finished load of cartons that's already cut and getting ready to be fed into a folder gluer to be completed. We're in our CAD Design department, which also functions as die making and die programming. This is Mike, another 20-plus year veteran of MOD-PAC. What he's doing right now is finalizing a design that's going to be sent out to our plotter. He's going to be making some mock-up prototypes for this customer before this die actually goes to production. This is our plotter cutter table. What Mike is doing is he's cutting mock-ups or comps from the design that was on his screen prior. He did the design from scratch for our customer. So what he's doing is he's cutting these comps for them to review before we go to full production on it. This is Ron, another 20-plus year veteran of MOD-PAC that I've worked with. So what Ron does is he actually creates the cutting die that you saw in Isaiah's press. Basically, from when Mike programmed the sample, it gets sent over to this machine, which actually cuts all of the steel knives that get manually hammered into a laser cut die board. It's a very old technology. It really hasn't changed much other than the lasers and the computer portion of it. But basically Ron will still hand bend and hand hammer steel cutting rule into this die to make that cutting die. This is MOD-PAC's cello window applicating machine. This is Charlie. He and I have actually worked together for close to 25 years now. What this machine does is it applies a polypropylene or polyethylene window material onto a carton to basically showcase the product that's in it. So as Charlie's feeding this in, there's a window material that's being cut and adhered to this roller via a series of vacuums. Then as the carton rolls under it, the vacuum releases and basically the window gets glued on. There's glue stencils in this first unit. In the same manner, it rolls over a glue pot, picks up a trace amount of glue, puts it on the cello material or on the carton itself, and then the cello material is adhered to that. This is a BOPS master fold liner finishing section. These machines are basically what fold and glue the carton. This particular line right now is actually running about 55,000 an hour. It has the potential or the capability of running up to about 170,000 cartons an hour, which is very fast. This is the section where the folding actually begins. In this next area, you can actually see the artwork kind of coming over and where it would actually be forming the box. Then this compression section, the box is actually glued and folded, and what it's doing is it's kind of just compressing the box lightly so that the glue adheres and that it sets up properly. This area is actually what's called our auto packer. So what's happening is as the cartons get fed down this line, they get turned 90 degrees into this section and basically counted. So what happens, it'll come up and there's a unique number related to the corrugated of how much can actually fit in a corrugated box. It'll come over the top, and if you can see in that area, it will fill the carton itself. That's our auto packer. One of the features from the glue detection and inline barcode reader is it will actually eject a carton if it's either mixed copy or if it has bad glue or glue that was detected to be incorrect. It'll eject it right out of the bottom of this into this tote. This is one of the coolest things I think that I've experienced in my time here at MOD-PAC. This is Oscar, our robot. So what Oscar does is he basically stacks and palletizes finished corrugate cases of our product. So what you can see is it's doing, it's basically lifting up layers of product, stacking it on a pallet, and then what will happen is when that pallet is complete, it'll move into a finishing station to be wrapped, labeled, and then down the line, ultimately to be picked up by a forklift and placed into finished goods inventory. So what Tyler just did is he scanned this pallet into finished goods inventory as a finished component. So now he'll tag this, and then it'll move into the wrapping section ultimately to get picked up by a fork truck. Now it's finished the wrapping process, it'll automatically cut that shrink wrap and send this pallet down the line to ultimately be picked up by a forklift to be put into the rack. This is our shipping department. It is basically the end of the line for all of the production processes that you've seen in this video. From the finished goods stacking section, the material comes via forklift into this area. It will either be put into finished goods warehouse or, as Agron is doing right now, loading it onto a truck to be delivered to a customer. The warehouse is about 100,000 square feet. It's climate and humidity controlled so that our product is always what we call fresh when it arrives to our end customer for their production process. So that's the tour of MOD-PAC, showcasing all of our technology, equipment, and most importantly, our employees. That gives us the ability to turn cartons at a very high level of quality. And as always, expect the expected.